I figured a clever way to get out there. I never heard myself. The issue of quality. There's a note in the back that says when I changed it to, it's changed by this person. Can you take it down? Yeah. No, I'll just take it. I use yeah, sort of difficult chair.
I guess they want to avoid someone putting something up that would be just extremely jarring with the idea of a heritage share.
Let's walk. Let's go.
Last change March 29th. Report so that we can compare. Right? No, that's the total of all permits.
Yeah. The number of books. So if you multiply that number by 50, those are some expensive permits, right?
She's dropped me at 90.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So that's like $1.4 million. So why would not adjustment for houses?
It is interesting.
Well, I suggested if we want to compare it, we should be other.
Yes, that's great. Is that is like that's issue is that like full new house construction. Oh, right.
Yeah, so but this that they put in matches that. I think you want to be able to get into
We're not ready to go there.
All right.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, to the regular meeting of Council. It'll be the last meeting of this term of this Council. And, yes.
Thank you, Sharon. I do apologize. I just noted that the agenda for tonight's meeting does not mention the time of the meeting. I just wanted to ask if that was going to be a problem, please.
I see.
Your Worship, no, that's been correctly advertised. Thank you, though.
All right, thank you very much. So this is, notice has been duly given for our 7 o'clock meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for that. We start our meetings by acknowledging that we gather on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish and Straits Salish peoples. Specifically, we recognize the Lekwungen-speaking people, known today as the Songhees and the Esquimalt, and that their historic connections to these lands continue to this day. I also advise people that this is being video recorded, and video recording are archived at our website. Tonight was to have been Tom Croft, Councillor Croft's last meeting, and he's unable to be here. Now, motion to amend the agenda is, I'm going to suggest you bring forward consideration item number 19, which is the bylaw 3531.101, a zoning bylaw. We had a public meeting from the at May 23rd. So should we do that right off the top, Mr. Jones? Is that the best thing to have it before everything else?
Your Worship, I think that would be
Okay.
appropriate. The other one that, in the event that there are people here, we try to notify the community, but we did also have a bylaw that we had anticipated coming to tonight for a public hearing at 6 p.m. Fortunately, hopefully we informed people well enough that they didn't attend, but that was around the cannabis regulations, and staff discovered an error in our advertising, and so we've rescheduled that. So if there are people in the audience that are here to talk about the cannabis regulation bylaw, that will not be on the agenda tonight.
Thank you very much. So with the amendment of bringing number 19, or item 19, right to the top of the agenda.
Move the amended agenda. Second.
Okay, moved and second. Is there discussion about anything on the agenda? No. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Now, Mr. Jones, can you lead us through that particular bylaw that we now is number 1 on the item and was number 19?
Thank you, Your Worship. Probably what the suggestion there is to actually have that come forward through after the new business section. So there are items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sorry.
Sorry, we're going to follow the new business section. I got it.
Yeah,
so it's not
I
right off the
apologize,
top.
Your Worship.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. My misunderstanding there. And I apologize that we started a minute late. And just in the event that somewhere along the line I doze off in the seat here, I should advise I literally landed at the international airport at 6 o'clock this evening. Rushed down here, and I've spent the last 5 days in Ireland at our oldest son's wedding. So there, and just so you know, there was 24 hours between the wedding and me getting on the plane. So anything that had been in my system by way of Guinness is now gone. So it was the most joyous of occasions. It was just fantastic. So Thanksgiving wedding was wonderful. So let's start with item number 1 then, and it's the minutes from our public meeting of September 17th. Please.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved. Seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. We move to the council meetings minutes, September 17th, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, discussions. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Committee of the Whole, the 24th of September.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. I don't have any remarks other than to wish everyone all the best on October 20th. This is our last meeting of this term of this council. There is no committee of the whole, and certainly there will be other occasions to recognize any councillor who is retiring, and we know there's one for sure who is retiring here. And we certainly thank Councillor Kirby for her work, her dedication to the task. She was always and will continue to be a passionate voice for issues revolving around families. It's not like you're going to your reward like sometimes the Liberal cabinet ministers used to in the old days, where you go on the bench, but you certainly are going to a rewarding job. I know you made a presentation recently at the UBCM on the issue of family issues that are so important to British Columbians. So we wish you well in that endeavor. And it's unfortunate that Tom Croft, or Councillor Croft, was unable to attend tonight. And we certainly know that he's been instrumental in a lot of work, and we'll see that when we come up to hear from the South Island Prosperity Project, which he was intimately involved in, and our representative, and did incredible amount of work. So, and to everyone else who's running, I wish them good luck. I know, see a few candidates here, and we'll meet again. I don't know where, don't know when, but I'm sure we'll meet again some sunny day. So thank you very much. Those are my remarks. We have a public participation period, which runs for 20 minutes, maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. I time it with my handy-dandy little timer. You're required to come forward, state your name, the community you live, put your name down, and on the sheet, and I start the clock when I say welcome. Does anyone wish to come forward to speak to any issues? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Esther Patterson, Woodlawn Crescent.
Welcome.
Just would like to comment on item number 11, that's the permits report. I've commented on this before, and so again, just to flag it, this report shows kind of a total of the summary of the permits on the last page as 654. And in the 2017 annual report, we showed 1,071. But if I look at the building permits that we actually supplied to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, for 2017 it was only 50. The total dollar values are the same. So again, if clarification on the report would be nice, or at least some way that we can actually benchmark performance with other members of the CRD. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Patterson, and I'm not going to ask staff to comment on it now, and perhaps they can capture that question, and when we deal with item 11, if you would kindly make note of that. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate Ms. Patterson and coming forward. And now we move on to our presentation. Was there someone else? I'm sorry. You didn't wave your hand at me, Casey. Now you wave your hand. I'm almost going to say it's too late. Casey Edge is known for a lot of things, and one of the things that he's known for is he was Mr. Video here. There was a time when people actually rented these VHS and discs. It's amazing, isn't it?
That was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
And he had what I would think was the best collection in Oak Bay. And so, anyways, 3 minutes. Welcome, Mr. Edge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight I'd like to speak to the item on your agenda. I believe it's number 21, regarding Building and Plumbing Amendment Bylaw, and I believe you're addressing the step code. Tonight I'm wearing two hats. One as a resident of 315 2100 Granite Street, and second as the Executive Director of the Victoria Residential Builders Association. Understand that the step code is a bylaw. It's not provincial code. And when you take on the step code, you take on a greater level of liability. That liability could include radon. Extremely energy efficient homes draw in radon. The radon map is changing. The BC government really has no idea where the radon is. An SFU scientist has discovered, and this is just one of the issues with step code, SFU scientists has discovered high levels of radon on the North Shore that was thought to be low level, was identified as low level, and is still identified as low level radon risk by the BC government. BC government recently put out a new map that said Jordan River is high level, Port Renfrew is low, and Souk is low. Duncan is high level risk for radon, Victoria is low, and Nanaimo is low. The reality is they don't know. And when you build very energy efficient homes, as I say, they suck the radon in. So when you're going down this road, as a resident of Oak Bay, I would rather not, as a taxpayer, take on that kind of liability. In 2001, BC Supreme Court judge awarded $3 million to a strata council for a lack of diligence done by the building department for Delta with respect to leaky condo. This is going down a road that Oak Bay does not want to go down. Wait for the National Building Code Committee to do its diligence on energy-efficient homes, and that report is expected out next year with implementation probably in 2020. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edge. And I saw that you also have a letter that you've submitted, and I've alerted staff that when we get to that item, I'd like him to address not only your letter, but what you have here said tonight. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, someone else. Fine, thank you. Come on forward.
So Elba Jensen, Oak Bay. This is
welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're no relation, even though the name sounds very similar. Thank you. Ms. Jensen.
You don't want to claim any connection. My question comes out of the minutes of the Council Committee of the Whole meeting, and it looked like it passed, but I don't see the answer to the question that staff clarify the wording of the registered covenant and the interplay between the covenant and the zoning bylaw and whether there's an impact on the building height. Our understanding is the building height is measured from to the highest point of the building at 21 meters from sea level.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Jensen. And I think staff have a report here, and they can also perhaps address that, the issue that you've raised here when we get to that particular item. Thank you very much.
Okay, I didn't see it on the agenda, so I just didn't know what was going to be coming up again. So it's going to come later on in the agenda?
Oh, that's right. It was just on the amendments. Mr. Jones, sorry. That's where I saw
Your
it.
Worship, just to be clear, this is, and I appreciate people's opportunity to come and speak, but this is an opportunity for people to come and present information to council. And to be honest, council and staff are not in a position necessarily to respond to the questions you have that aren't on the agenda. So this was on the agenda
These
and
are the
included
minutes,
and
yeah.
then included in the minutes last time. So
But when is the, so the minutes say that the staff will clarify it. So when do we find out about that clarification? Because it's not in the minutes and it's not on the council agenda.
Okay. Are you going to take that, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, thank
you very much.
Your Worship. You may recall at the last meeting I did speak to this question, and the answer is the same. The height that's proposed is within the height limits of the covenant of the 21 meters, but also as measured per our zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw allows chimneys as projections to be exempt from the height limit. So that's, I believe, as I reported at the last meeting, and that's the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jensen. Anyone else? Okay, this time I see no hands a-waving. We're going to go on to item number 6, and that's the South Island Prosperity Project. And I saw you out there. Bruce Williams.
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much.
I am here to keep you awake, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's your 3 minutes. Yours is up. That's it. So just introduce yourself.
I will, thank you.
Although you're a man who needs no introduction for anyone who's...
I'm just getting the technical stuff organized here. I am Bruce Williams. I'm the Director of Engagement for the South Island Prosperity Project located at 730 View Street. Quick backgrounder for those in the room who may or may not know, the South Island Prosperity Project is the economic development agency for the Greater Capital Region for the municipality south of the Malahat. We are partway through our 3rd year of existence right now, and I'm here to give you an update on your investment that you make in this organization and why your support means so much, not only to your own municipality, but to this entire region, in the very unique model of collaboration that we have in place at the South Island Prosperity Project. I also did want to recognize, as you mentioned, Your Worship, that Councillor Croft has made a huge contribution and been integral in the growth and the success of this organization. So a shout out to him as well. We've had a big year. This presentation is going to be doing something that is not entirely foreign to me. We're going to do something that sort of emulates what a TV show might do. And as a recovering broadcaster, I can relate to that. We're going to show you in a minute the top 10 things that have happened in the last year with the South Island Prosperity Project. We're an organization that is a private-public partnership with all of these members that you see here. I'll give you a second to take a look at those. We have 10 municipalities, 3 post-secondaries, 20 private businesses. We have organizations like the Harbour Authority involved. And we come together to talk about the issues that might be barriers or gateways to success and growth within our economy that's both sustainable and something that can be scalable as well. So these are all the things that really matter to us. And see, these are some of the folks that are our partners too that aren't on there because they have just recently joined. Our Van City and the airport, Victoria International Airport, have joined us as well to be a part of what we're doing to move ahead. So, in the spirit of what a former broadcaster would do, these are the top 10 highlights of the past year, and I will try and keep this as unnerdy as possible when I go forward. So Smart South Island, the Smart Cities Project, is something that the federal government has put in place. They've set aside a large bag of money for municipalities across Canada to make themselves smarter by use of data and technology primarily, but using that to address the primary social issues that challenge them or the barriers to growth within their economy. So there were 200 applications from across the country for this, and I'll tell you where we ended up with that. But we, of course, first did an assessment to say, have we got what it takes to be smart? Can we do that? Do we have the stuff in place? And we do, between private business, the municipalities, the advisors that are around us, academia, and all the rest of it. So yes, we are smart enough to be smart, which we're going to do. Number 9 was something called the Prosperity Index. Recently, the Vital Signs report came out for this municipality, which happens every year. So taking that model in place and working with the Victoria Foundation, we created something called the Prosperity Index, which is basically vital signs for the economy. And around the outside of that, you'll see that there are 5 primary issues that have been identified as the challenges for this community. Transportation and mobility being number 1, housing and affordability, human health, environmental health, and economic resiliency. So our SMART plan moving forward is to address those issues, and the one that has been chosen as the number 1 issue here is transportation, because getting around in this area is not easy. Housing and affordability is dependent upon that. It impacts human health, but I'll touch on that a little bit later on as well. Number 8 is something called Indigenous Connect. This is something that we put together, and we involve Indigenous entrepreneurs and Indigenous business owners to get together with each other. These meetings are held at the Songhees Wellness Center to talk about their successes, but also their challenges, how they can collaborate, how they can work together, just as all the partners within the South Island Prosperity Project work together too. They gather monthly. Experts are brought in to address a number of the situations that they're all facing that might be barriers to their growth. And there's a bit more information in that, about that in the information that I left for you here as well. Number 7, the Songhees Innovation Center funding. The gentleman on the left is the Honourable Navdeep Bains, the federal minister who came to town to put some money in place to make the Songhees Innovation Center happen. It's a place where Indigenous businesses can ramp themselves up, can get smarter about technology, about data, about things they need to grow their businesses. And SIP was instrumental in helping that funding come through Western Economic Development and some other agencies of government on the federal level. So we were very, very proud to be a part of that and making that happen as well. But the Innovation Center. Business Connect is something where we get together with people who have burgeoning businesses and growing businesses to help them understand more about what it takes to grow within this economy. We all know that there are always going to be challenges for people who are determined to undertake their entrepreneurial skills, grow their business, grow our economy, and raise all of us along with them. Things like financial modeling, governance, operations, export assessment, trade mission opportunities, and executive forums that happen peer-to-peer. So we have senior business advisors that are engaged with our organization who help out businesses that can scale themselves up and that can make themselves bigger and be a bigger part of our economy. Business delegation went to China last year. I would encourage any who will be a part of the incoming council to be involved with this next time around. This one didn't happen in this particular year. It happened last year in our first year. But going to places like China is a means of contacting opportunities for businesses here to grow. Economic development is the means of growing existing businesses to help them find export markets and attracting new business to come here to this region to offer us more opportunities to grow our economy and create good paying jobs and sustainable jobs at the same time. This one was very successful to the point that one thing that happened was engagement with the people that are now talking about creating a movie production theater here. That's the result of this trip that went over. There's another company in the electronic business that followed up with the contacts that were made on this trip and have created a $55 million business opportunity here that will grow their business by that dimension. And they, in fact, were so impressed by this organization and what we're doing with this Smart Cities thing that the world's largest conference, get ready for this, the world's largest conference on artificial intelligence happened 2 weeks ago in Shanghai. That organization invited South Island Prosperity Project and paid for them to be there to talk about the project that we're doing here, addressing smart mobility and smart transportation. So along with being smart, we wanted to hear from the public. We did a number of public gatherings to get people in place to see what their feedback was about these 5 priority issues and how we should move forward with them. The Smart South Island Symposium gathered that information. The Open Innovation Challenge was a public call that we put out for individuals who had ideas based around any of the 5 issues that we spoke about, those transportation, wellness, and the rest of it, to give us ideas. We had 70 applications into that, brought down to 10 finalists. Those 10 finalists faced a panel of experts in a Dragon's Den, Shark Tank kind of thing. 3 of them won a $15,000 prize. The young man in the middle on the top there is a UVic student who invented something called the Caboost, which you may have seen in the media. It's a little orange unit that goes behind anybody's standard bicycle, and it electrifies it. It creates energy. It's like an electric car. It generates its own power. So when you're going up the hill or you're feeling lazy or you just got off a plane from Ireland, you flip a switch, and it propels your bike forward as an electric hybrid bicycle. 2 other ones. One is called NalPal. That's an app that goes on your phone that is the naloxone kit, which is the antidote for a fentanyl overdose. So people that have the NalPal app are people who either carry that kit or are people who, frankly, are drug users and anticipate they may go into an overdose circumstance. When you encounter someone in that circumstance, or if you're that person, you hit the button and the person's closest to you with an antidote kit show up and save your life. That's the bottom line on that. And the third one is something called Harvesting Abundance in the Urban Garden. It's sort of a variation on the gleaning program that's been here for a long time. So gleaning food products from backyards all over the region where people grow the fruit trees or the bushes and they don't harvest it themselves. This goes through the Food Share program that's located in Vic West. They also create products that they manufacture, which they sell to generate income to keep themselves going. So those were the ones that won the $15,000 cash prizes, made possible, by the way, by our friends at Island Savings, who are the underwriters of that. And I should also mention that the Prosperity Index was underwritten as a net zero to us by Coastal Community Credit Union. So those were things that we did to bring sponsorship forward. So thank you to them for that. Economic development attracts new business to this region, and this is the most recent example. Daytan is a group that is a software company based in Brazil. They had a location in California, but they're feeling very uneasy about the political circumstance in California. They decided that they wanted to relocate to Canada. They wanted to stay in the same time zone. So they took a look at Vancouver and they took a look at Greater Victoria, and we won because we gave them some very simple facts. Here's the cost of land and renting and buying in Vancouver. Here's comparable in Greater Victoria. So they're arriving here. They'll be here, I believe, next week, actually. The first wave, there will be about a dozen Brazilian families coming along with them, and eventually this organization will create 200 jobs in our economy. So, and with that Brazilian element, we know that our soccer skills are going to go up significantly in this municipality and in this community when that all happens. So Daytan is coming forward very soon too. Vision 2040. We all know that if you have 2020 vision, you can see 2 years ahead of now. But we have a 2040 plan, and that's good, eh? I made that up. 2040 means looking ahead. You must prepare for the future, to future-proof your economy, to be strategic, to be sustainable, to engage things that work and really, really, really make a big difference. So the Vision 2040 document, you have a copy of here, but for others who don't have that document, it's available on the South Island Prosperity website. There you go. Yeah, there's an impact report and a Vision 2040. And now to number one. Canada's Smart City Challenge. 200 municipalities across Canada submitted their ideas. From those 200, 20 finalists were chosen, and South Island Prosperity is one of them. So the government is giving away prizes in three categories: 50 million, 10 million, or 5 million. So there are 5 finalists for 50 million, there are 5 finalists for 5 million, and there are 10 finalists for 2 prizes of 10 million, and we're one of those ones that's going for the $10 million prize. So we're forming that right now. We were given $250,000 by the federal government to frame that. We are seeking some other funding to help support that. Most of the other municipalities in Canada who were named as finalists have received matching funding from their province or their municipality. That hasn't come to pass here. We spoke actually to the provincial government's budget strategy committee this morning about possibly revisiting that issue. But we're very proud that all of this group, together with all of our 45 members now representing this municipality and all the other municipalities, businesses, major employers, our private business members are the people who create the jobs, who sustain the jobs, that drive this economy. The big employers like the people you saw on the first iteration here on the first couple of pages. So we're very proud to be in this very esteemed company to make this go forward. So we have a short video to show you. Do I just advance for that to happen? Or did they send you the video? No video for you? No? Okay. So we can send that to... Okay. We can also forward that to council later. It's on our website, too, if anybody wants to take a look at it. Is it... And just while we have a moment, along the idea of multimodal transportation, which is what our $10 million pitch is all about, we have an event coming up a week from tonight, the 16th in Centennial Square. It's actually during the day from 11 until 3. It's called the... good call. The Smart Mobility Expo. Every possible means of transportation available in this region will be present there. So if you've ever wanted to try an electric skateboard, or a scooter, or a hoverboard, or see what electric buses are all about, any of that kind of stuff, they will be on display at that event at Centennial Square from 11 until 3 next Tuesday. I don't think that's going to work, actually. So there's a longer version of it on here. I was going to give you a shorter version because the mayor's tired. So I will email that to you later on, I promise. So as for what's coming up next for us, that was the last slide that we were going to talk about, and I don't have a hard copy of that, so... Anyway, we're going to continue with this plan to get the $10 million. Is this the presentation here? It's on the bottom. Oh, the PowerPoint.
No, that's what we're on right now, right over at this side, yeah.
That one? Okay, so there we go. We're going to finalize the $10 million application for Canada's Smart Cities Challenge. That'll be over the next 6 months. The application goes in March. The decision is made in June. We're going to launch something called the Future Innovators Challenge. We did the other innovation challenge that created those 3 winners. Future Innovators means that it's high school kids and university and college students. We've had interest so far from a couple of hundred applications into that. We will again be doing the same format where we're going to have a panel of experts. We'll be granting cash rewards, cash prizes to them to accelerate their plans and move them forward. Continue to grow membership engagement. We've grown our membership by 300% in the last year alone. So we basically tripled our membership. We're going to continue with that. The Business Connect clients is going to be an ongoing thing. The Indigenous Connect, and also doing something in the spring that's going to be an Indigenous Business Connect conference to bring together all of the entrepreneurs and the Indigenous nations here to talk on a larger scale about what we're already doing. So there's that and much more. Thank you for your time. If anybody has any questions, if I can, I will answer them.
Okay.
Is it?
Should we try?
Why not? Boom.
Look at you.
Probably have
Thank
to.
you. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Have to.
It's that United Way magic coming through there.
All right, you
There we go. Please
There
enjoy.
we go.
I feel that it's a galvanizing force. I feel that it's managed to cross all of those strange lines we have in this region to bring people together to talk about what we have in common.
We've hit heights that we didn't think we would hit. Not only are we here, but we're moving forward at a rapid pace, and I think we're surprising ourselves, and we're certainly surprising people across Canada.
You know, we realize the importance here of, you know, working with our neighbors and all in our region here. You know, so that's what it really is to us, is to be able to have a seat at the table and share in those discussions.
I mean, it's incredibly effective and incredibly important to have all the stakeholders at the table together, and we see that in our own operation and how we get things done.
Working together towards a shared goal that magnifies and amplifies the impact of what we do, and none of us could do it without partners.
Our partnership is valuable not only to the economy and to the South Island, but also for our students.
Well, all employers and organisations have the same problems, so it's really helpful if we can get together, share our experiences and network, and apply our collective capacity to try and find solutions to some of the issues that we all face.
I think SIP is just an outstanding example of municipal cooperation, First Nations, public institution, businesses in Greater Victoria.
It's unprecedented and it's so exciting. Having us all together there in the room, it's how stuff happens. No one's left behind and no one's left out.
I think there's great energy from the leadership team there, you know, and some of the quality of the material that's being produced is very high, and I think it's getting people's attention.
I think we've proven over a long period of time that everyone acting in their own best interest doesn't raise the bar. So this is a better solution, having everyone think together about how to make this region more economically successful.
We believe SIP is going to become more and more integral and more important for us as we move forward.
It's just the range that SIP has achieved in the past year has been really quite remarkable, and frankly, it's hard to devote enough space to all of these stories.
The belief that we are going to do this and that there is the right momentum around the table right now, we have the right people around the table, that there is a desire and a collective belief that this is going to not just be a shelf project, that we are going to do something through the South Island Prosperity.
We're very happy to see that the South Island Prosperity Project has been embraced by most people in our region, and you know, I understand there's some that haven't gotten on board yet, but you know, as we move forward in the process, you know, I think it'll open the door to others to come and be involved. And so, you know, I look forward to the next little while and see how it unfolds and bringing more people into South Island Prosperity Project.
Yeah, we're starting from a position of strength.
Go SIP, go.
So those are our social media channels if you want to keep in touch with us. Of course, you can do the old school and phone us or email or anything like that. Any questions I can answer for anyone?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Any questions? So, no? Okay, so.
Thank you.
Okay, there was some bit of waving, but I just want to say how great this particular project has been.
Thank
I
you.
was the chair of the CRD board when at the infancy, and the germ of an idea was presented to me by Dan Dagg, and a delegation of people came, and you were there.
I was one of them.
I think there was a couple of others, and very, very exciting. I felt honored to be able to certainly support and go to the next step with you. So congratulations. It has been a wonderful success, and we're certainly very pleased that Oak Bay through Councillor Croft has been very much a part of it. And as you know, we've committed to being a member and the funding member. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 7, the tree protection bylaw. This is an application for reconsideration of a refusal to allow a tree to be taken down on private property. Just before we kind of get into it, it's a bit unusual because we sit and almost in judgment as a quasi-judicial body here. So I'm just going to ask for a little bit of general information about what our powers are and what the grounds for exercising our powers are to ensure we're all on the same page, including the applicant. And first of all, is the applicant here? Oh, there, sorry. I was looking, well, you'd already stepped forward. Hi. All righty. So we're just going to get a little bit of background information as to what our role is, because this is a little bit different when we sit almost like an appeal court, so to speak. Who's going to take this?
Your Worship, we'll start with Mr. Hidley.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hidley.
Your Worship, fellow council members, I'd like to start by clarifying that the request is for a straightening of the driveway, not a widening of the driveway. And the initial request for this came into us in, I think it was 2012. There was a site plan initially attached for that. At that time, it was denied because of the actual width of the driveway itself. I think there's a memorandum attached to your council packages that reference that. I did visit Mr. and Mrs. Keisra again on the this year in July, and the request came forward again for a straightening of the driveway that would impact the Gary Oak tree, hence the request to remove the tree itself. And that's where we were left. It was my understanding that the bylaws do specify how wide a driveway can be when it crosses a boulevard, and that particular lot is presently at the maximum. So that's where we are right now. I haven't seen any additional plans from the initial plan that was submitted by the Keisras in 2010.
Mr. Jones, can you
Your Worship,
talk a
I
little
would
bit
just
about
like
the process?
Just like to point out that we dealt with a similar item. I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, and this is just for council's information. Obviously, this is totally up to you, but at the time when a similar application came forward, council decided that it would wait until there was a decision or some conversation around what would in fact be deemed a hardship. And that was something that we are going to be doing as part of our new our bylaw process. So that's just for your information. That's just for you and for the applicant.
Okay. Now, in terms of, can someone speak to what our grounds for overruling a staff decision are?
Essentially, Your Worship, you have Section 6 of the Tree Protection Bylaw that you can reference for reasons for tree removal. And there is 12 reasons there.
Okay. Now, because this is tied to a request to straighten the driveway or to change the configuration of the driveway, I wonder if even the applicant maybe can assist us. Where is that issue?
Actually, it's partially incorrect.
Okay, let's start by actually having, if you can give your name.
My name is Karen Crissa,
okay,
and I live at 3331 Gibbs Road in North Oak Bay.
And you're the applicant, thank you.
I am the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. I have some pictures here that would enhance your understanding of our property and
sure.
Why. Okay.
Yep. Just thank you. Maybe you can address the first issue though, because it has to do with the something about the driveway.
So
I
it's actually a two-pronged request to council, to the District of Oak Bay. We want to build another bay, a garage, a separate garage for a vehicle that we own, and we have 3 vehicles, and we want to straighten the driveway to accommodate my physical disabilities, because I cannot currently use the driveway the way it is. It was not a request to widen the driveway. Not at any time did we ask to widen the driveway. In fact, if you look at...
If you wouldn't mind, when you're talking, standing in front of the mic, because otherwise people can't hear you if they're watching live streaming.
So, Your Worship, Mayor and Council, my husband apologizes for not being here tonight because he had a major eye surgery today. So Oak Bay granted a variance to put the garage where the architect designed it without extending the width of the existing driveway. So if you look at Exhibits 1 and 2, Chris Hidlay was mistaken in his memo dated September 5th that was appended to tonight's minutes and agenda that we're asking to have that tree taken down to widen the driveway. The architect actually designed a driveway that would meet with the existing width. And then we applied to have the tree taken down to straighten the driveway to accommodate my physical disabilities and to build the third bay to house a collector plate 1967 RSSS Camaro Exhibit B in your folder and 2 above average Acura vehicles. When we applied to remove the tree, the bylaw called to regulate the cutting of trees, Section 6.5, was used to relocate the placement of the third garage bay to attach it to the existing garage. If you would look at Exhibit C. The reasons we are appealing this decision made under that bylaw is by placing that third garage bay next to the existing 2-bay garage would impose undue hardship on us by dividing our only backyard green space, which measures approximately 20 by 40 yards, in Exhibit D, shading our raised beds that we grow all our fruits and vegetables and we can and freeze, and that's in Exhibit D, and enhancing the curvature of the edge of the driveway to make it difficult, if not impossible, for me to use the third bay, if you look at Exhibit E. So this request to remove this Gary oak tree in question is clearly allowable under the aforementioned bylaw. I trust that you understand that it is important to us, to the enjoyment of our lifestyle and our property, to have the tree removed to build a small garage in the area where the architect designed it, the same height as the existing fence, 6 feet, with a green roof and artificial turf in front. No one would even see the garage from the street. So aesthetically, it would be very pleasing. And where he designed it in the corner of the yard to preserve our only existing green space for our enjoyment with our family and friends, and to raise our fruits and vegetables in sunshine, and straighten the curvature of the driveway to accommodate my physical disabilities. Thank you.
Right. It's not, I may have missed it in the materials staff, but where is the approval of that new accessory building? Has that all been done?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, if you have the answer.
Oak Bay granted a variance for those architectural plans.
All right.
Subsequently, your parks people came to our property and under Section 6.5 asked us to relocate that garage to attach it to the existing garage, which would completely destroy our backyard. That is our only existing green space in our yard. We have raised beds, we have a greenhouse, we have a shed, and the rest is deck.
Where is that issue then? The issue of the garage? Has that been completed? Go ahead, Mr. Anderson, if you have a response.
Yeah, the information I have, and that's in the attachment that you have in your package, is that the accessory building and associated driveway was not approved. So I'm not sure.
Because of the asking us to move it.
Well, as the memo notes, it's with respect to the driveway is wider than our bylaw permits, which is a 3-meter driveway.
We were grandfathered in with that width.
I don't.
We are not asking to change the width of the driveway.
We're not going to try to have a back and forth here. It's probably not going to help because we might get lost. What report, or was there a revised report? It might have been when I was somewhere between Amsterdam and Calgary. What report are you referring to, Mr. Anderson, when you say?
I'm just referring to the attachment that's in your amended agenda entitled Building Review Notice.
Building Review Notice, okay. I see, I have it now. Okay, that was added before I left, okay. So can someone give a summary as to where we are now with that?
Sorry, Your Worship, I'm not exactly sure where we are, but I think we're hearing some different information from the applicant and then from staff. So, you know, from staff's perspective, this would be a good thing for us to come back and talk with the applicant and then bring something back to council.
Yeah, it strikes me there's a lot of uncertainty as to what's allowed, what's not allowed, and I think that has to be sorted out because I think your appeal is pinned on that accessory building being permitted there, and therefore you should be allowed to take the tree down. So I think we need to sort the first issue out about the accessory building with the allowable width of the driveway before we then come to the tree issue. I think that first one has to be sorted out in everyone's mind. So are you suggesting we refer it back for further conversation? And I'm sorry to have to do this. I know you've been at this for quite a while. It may be better to have a more complete review by our staff and have a report before council before we make any decisions, because as they say, good decisions come from good information. So right now there seems to be a lot of gaps.
Your Worship, that would be staff's perspective.
Okay. So if any...
Move a referral back to staff. Is that an appropriate motion?
Yep. That would be. Okay, moved and seconded.
Could I ask that those photos be taken in?
Sure.
Given
yeah, in
us
fact,
all?
we can provide that,
All
these
right.
materials. So just so you know, that if this passes, then it'll come back to a subsequent council meeting and you'll be notified.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you very much. We'll get to the bottom of it, I'm sure. Thank you. That was number 7. Next one is number 8. This is a request for financial assistance from the Greater Victoria Crossing Guard Association. Who is here from the association? All right, if you can identify yourself, please.
My name is Audrey Smith. I'm the president of the Greater Victoria Crossing Guard Association.
Welcome, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Now, just to give us a bit of an overview, Ms. Carter, is she way down at the other end? Oh, there's someone sitting behind Mr. Oh, okay, that's Mr. Hidley. Sorry. Who's going to give us the overview on this in the absence of Ms. Carter?
Your Worship, I think that the applicant is able to provide you the request.
Okay.
If, in fact, council was interested in approving this request for additional funding, it would come from the council contingency fund for grants.
Okay. So, Ms. Smith, it's going to be heavy on your shoulders to convince us to do this. We have your materials.
Yes.
We don't want to put too much pressure on you. And we know the importance of the Victoria Crossing Guards and certainly the guards that help in around Oak Bay. So give us a very brief overview of why this is necessary.
Okay, there are a couple of reasons why it's necessary. The municipality of Oak Bay had a fund to pay for Beacon Community Services Crossing Guard as they were doing the Crossing Guard services, and they ceased doing that June 30th. But in the meantime, we had a new provincial government that has increased minimum wage twice in that scope of time, in that time frame that you had budgeted for. And so when Beacon stopped doing it in June, when they announced back in January that they were going to stop doing it in June, there was this desire to find another management model, which was the birth of the Greater Victoria Crossing Guard Association. I was here in August requesting that the funding that had been allocated to go to Beacon Community Services would be transferred to the Crossing Guard Association, and that amount of money was not sufficient to cover the raises that the provincial government granted to, because crossing guards are paid minimum wage. So this amount will cover the change to the wage, the fee scale, to the cost of employing your crossing guards, but also it will help to cover the overhead, the change in the overhead, because now it's an independent organization as opposed to being cushioned by Beacon's community services overall, because we have to have an individual insurance policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's just see if there's any questions of the applicant, Ms. Smith. Is there any questions anyone has for her?
Move approval.
All right, moved and seconded. So it's moved that we would approve this. And any discussion about this, please? Go ahead, Councillor Kirby.
I just wanted to clarify that this would be paid immediately rather than waiting till next year's estimates.
Your Worship, it would be out of 2018 funds, so yes, it would.
Okay, that's great. And if I could make a quick comment, I just wanted to thank Ms. Smith for stepping up and creating the organization in place of Beacon Services, because we were all very anxious for several months, and I know our crossing guards were very anxious about their future and the future of the students' safety getting to school. So I really want to thank you for your leadership and for organizing the crossing guards across the region. This was very helpful, and you rescued us from a very difficult situation of not knowing where we were going with our crossing guards without some kind of way to pay them and organize them. So I really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you very much.
It's been really good.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? No one opposed. Thank you very much, and staff will make the arrangements.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
We move on to number 9. This is the Carnarvon Park Master Plan, and we have approved moving ahead with this, but there's a request for additional funding to allow for the addition of youth meeting as part of the public engagement consultation plan. Mr. Herman is here. Mr. Herman, did you want to give us any more background other than what's in your, we do have your memo with the executive summary and setting out the reasons why you're recommending that we put an additional $2,000 towards this project. Is there anything else you want to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the report is quite straightforward. It's a small amount of money. $2,000 would cover the additional $1,500 that the consultant quoted, as well as some advertising and refreshments. And I think the Commission felt that this would be a worthwhile addition to the engagement process. And given some savings, unexpected savings in the park's operating budget for 2018, there's availability within the budget to cover that cost.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Herman? Seeing no questions, entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Go ahead, Councillor Murdoch.
No issues with the motion. I guess I had a couple of just quick questions. Is there a strategy for getting sufficient youth into? I know that's one of the hard parts with trying to do these kind of consultations. Has there been a strategy established to try to get sufficient youth in to consult with?
Through you, Your Worship, the consultant has undertaken this type of engagement process previously, and will work with the Oak Bay High School to try and get some students out that are interested in the project and sit down with them and go through a similar process that they've done in other projects.
All right. And my second question is just through Chair. This Carnarvon Park for quite a long time had childcare services provided in that public space, and now there's new funding available through the province that sort of opens up the possibility of fully funded other child care spaces. So I don't think I'd look for this additional money for these sort of things, but has this process included reaching out to, say, some of the people who were at the Paddington Station when it was in that space, just to get a sense of what worked and what didn't? So if we were considering that, we'd have some of that information as well, some of that learned experience?
Again, through you, Your Worship, not directly. I mean, I'm sure there are some of those parents that are part of some of the stakeholder groups or what have you, but there hasn't been a meeting set up directly with folks that utilize the services at that location. We can certainly try to highlight those issues as we go through the process. That's probably all I can give you.
Yeah, I think I was thinking, maybe just as simple as going down and some staff go down by the current daycare and just talking with them, some of the parents that probably have gone through it to get some feedback. But it raised the question when I was reading this about the youth. I thought, well, that would be another aspect if that is part of the consideration for that space. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Your Worship, I'd just like to say that staff are very aware that there's new funding available for daycare facilities, and we're looking forward to using some contacts to help us advance interest in that area.
Sounds great. I think the contact was listening to you. Councillor Kirby, did you want to say anything? Anything succinct and short?
Yes, succinct and short. Yes, I do. Two quick things. I wanted to thank staff for bringing forward the idea of including youth and having this engagement session. I wanted to just remind everybody that how fantastic the youth were when the youth. I sound like so old when I say the youth. My kids would be mocking me right now. But we had quite a contingent of young people participate from the leadership group at Oak Bay High and also from the biology class that participated in the Bowker Creek rehabilitation and the revisioning of the Oak Bay High School. So they were very active in that process and very active in the Bowker Creek rehabilitation project. So I think there's a real strong contingent at Oak Bay High that would be enthusiastic about revisioning the park. So I'm thrilled to hear that the commission and staff have brought this forward. I think it's a great idea. And with regards to childcare, I am thrilled to hear the enthusiasm from both staff and council about including that in our next project. And I would just remind you that Natalie Brown, who's the supervisor at the daycare, was also at the Paddington Station long before it moved over to the Neighborhood Learning Center. So she has heaps of institutional knowledge and will be able to share that with us, I'm sure, because she did help vision the new site and brought us over. So thanks.
We need a motion. There's a motion on the floor? Yep. Okay. Motion on the floor. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you. Item number 10, which is for receipt of the Heritage Commission minutes. Anyone from the Heritage Commission here? No? All right.
Move receipt.
Second.
Moved. Seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Number 11. This is the quarterly report of active land use applications. And typically we just receive this. Is there anything that, Mr. Anderson, you wanted to capture to add to, you heard from Ms. Patterson in terms of that? Oh, Ms. Jensen, again, no relation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just as a reminder, the intent of this quarterly report to Council was really to provide Council a snapshot of the active land use applications that we had under consideration. So to that extent, this would not provide any additional information with respect to fees that have been captured through this process or any the total building permits that have been issued. Those are really numbers that are put together at the end of the year, so we can provide you with those annual numbers.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Any questions? Okay. You have a question, staff? Go ahead.
More just a comment. I just wanted to say I appreciate the change in format so that we have the last 3 months separated on here so we can identify what has changed because it was hard to pick that out sometimes in the previous format. So thank you for that nice formatting change.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on the floor to receive? Moved and seconded. This further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. We have the rescheduling. This was referred to. This is the cannabis, correct? You referred to it at the top of the meeting. So the
I
proposal
move
is
that council set a public hearing on bylaw 3531.103 to be held at the Oakville Municipal Hall, November 13th at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
Moved, seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed? Given that October 18th will be the start date, this might be a happier meeting than prior to that, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. 13, which is a motion to receive the correspondence, and we're going to discuss this under the bylaw.
Move receipt.
Move receipt. Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you. 14, new business. Any new business? Okay. Any report from the Capital CRD? No. There's a meeting coming up that has some issues in it. And any other verbal reports? Go ahead, please. Councillor Murdoch.
I just want to acknowledge as my liaison to Greater Victoria Public Library, there was a part of a joint series. Just encourage everybody to get out to, which is a joint between the Public Library and Oak Bay Archives and Oak Bay Heritage, which is these little talk series at the library. It was the most recent one that Mayor Jensen did a beautiful introduction to. Was held on September 26th, and it was these are really well attended and well appreciated. If anybody has a chance to go out and see them, they're definitely worth going to. There's a lot of little small local history in a small room with a very interesting selection of speakers. I also want to just acknowledge that this was once again the largest summer reading club in the library's history, with close to 8,000 kids going through it this time. So, and again, Oak Bay is way overrepresented as one of the most active sites after the downtown branch. And also just want to give a quick update on the Heritage Conservation Area Working Group. We've had a series of meetings to try and get through this, and we have what is a largely completed set of guidelines that we're expecting to bring back to a public input or community input session probably on October 23rd. Just hang tight. We're just trying to finalize that date, but it's probably sometime between the election and the new council just to get some final public input on that before it be finalized and brought to the next council. So those are the updates.
Thank you very much. Yeah, those lectures have been great, and it really shows the value added of having a part-time archivist who's committed to those kind of things. It really is wonderful, particularly in this last year or so. We're commemorating the First World War. So, any other verbal reports, or people who would like to say some things because they're not running for council again? Councillor Kirby.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to bore you all again with my. I'm going to be brief. I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity on my last meeting in 7 years and 2 terms to say thank you so much to my council colleagues, to the mayor, and to staff for their support. Well, that's unexpected. I'm really excited to move on to my, new challenges at my new job. But I've really enjoyed my time with Oak Bay, and I really have learned more than I can say. I've learned so much, and I feel like I have done it because of the strength and support we've had from our incredible staff, who have absolutely been always so helpful, always so responsive, and so supportive all along the way. We ask for information at any time of day, and we get a really responsive answer. And it's so helpful, and you're never going out on a limb by yourself. You've always got the support of staff behind you. So I really wanted to make sure before anyone else slipped out that they heard that, and I hope that you'll pass that along to the rest of the staff. Just how much I appreciated that. Whew, where'd this come from? My goodness. Anyways, and yeah, especially to my council colleagues and the mayor, I really feel like we've achieved a lot and accomplished so much together as a team, and I appreciate your support on several of my initiatives. It's been very it made a difference that I could make a difference. So thank you so much. And I'm so embarrassed that I'm crying. But thank you so much. And also thank you to the community for getting me here in the first place, for having faith in a candidate who was too young the first time around, age 34, and not maybe too young at 37. But I really can't thank the community and my supporters enough for getting me here and helping me through some of the tougher times, because let's face it isn't always an easy ride. And I'm sorry to all of you having to go through the election campaign. It's a challenging time, and balancing life and family and work is always a challenge when the campaign takes over. So hang in there till the end, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you very much, and I just want to just reiterate what I said at the top. I want to thank you for the great ideas you brought and the passion to the table, the great steps we made in certainly making Oak Bay and the region a safer and a better place for families and kids. So thank you very much. 19. Bylaw from May 23rd, public hearing, and then subject to the amended agenda, we have it, put it on here, and it is for adoption. Very briefly, can you just give? I have it right after, we insert it right after new business. Wasn't that the idea? Yep. Yeah, so we're at 19, which will become 15 when the 15 will become some other number. Let staff figure that one out. Because it has been a while, and it wouldn't hurt just to refresh our memories. I know there's a report, but also the members of the audience here or watching, the thousands that are watching at home.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you mentioned, in 2017, Council considered a rezoning application to facilitate a two-lot subdivision at this address. So the proposed second lot would become an RS5 zone. The original lot with the existing house on it would retain its RS4 zoning. The public hearing was held, and Council subsequently gave a third reading to the zoning amendment bylaw. One of the conditions of that rezoning was to secure a covenant that sets out an appropriate building envelope to construct a new home, as well as mitigate any impact to the protected trees that are on the site. So that covenant has now been finalized and registered with the Land Title Office, so Council can now consider the bylaw for adoption. Should Council adopt the bylaw, then you could consider a resolution for the development variance permit, which is next on the agenda as well. That would address minimum lot width for the smaller lot, which would vary it from 15.25 meters to 12.27 meters.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? I see the applicant, the original applicant here, seems to have been, it wasn't a sprint, it was more like a middle distance to a marathon. And I appreciate your patience. So the bylaw is before us for adoption.
Move adoption, bylaw 3531.101.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. So there's, I think that I heard you say there's another little hurdle, but we're certainly closer to the end than we are to the beginning. So thank you very much for persevering, and all the best. Thank you. We next go to items 15 and 16, and these are development variance permits issues, and they have been considered by our advisory bodies as well as by the committee of the whole. So part of the process is giving notice to the public. That has been done, and so we'll start by putting the resolution on the floor. Or is it on the floor now? Mr. Jones?
Your Worship, you should have a resolution. Moved and second to be considered.
So it is on the floor.
And then invite.
It's not like, I'm still going back to the old days where we tabled it to give notice. We don't do that anymore.
I'll move the resolution for 592 Island Road.
Second.
Okay, moved, seconded. Now, does anyone wish to come forward to speak to the issue of 592 Island Road? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Discussion at the table? Seeing none, call a question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. The same process for 609 Oliver Street, please.
Move the resolution variance of 609 Oliver Street.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any members of the public wish to address us on this issue? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to this table for discussions or comments. Go ahead, Councillor Murdoch.
There was a question raised in the correspondence here that I wasn't entirely clear on, which was the design of the sound baffling wall. Is the design the 8-foot with cantilever, or is it the 5-foot that's included as part of this?
So to clarify, the development variance permit itself has only one variance attached to it, and that's the setback for the sound emitting structure. So that would be the heat pump structure, not the wall. The wall is intended to provide more of a sound buffer for the heat pump system itself. That would be up to the applicant as to how they're going to design it, so long as it accomplishes what it is that they want it to do, but it's not part of this development variance permit. The citing was provided in the permit itself to just provide context.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I recognize that we're really dealing with a noise issue here, and the variance is. I mean, I think the variance is reasonably supportable, but the issue here is the noise. So, my understanding of this was that there was and perhaps I can direct this through the Chair to the Director of Building and Planning and maybe the applicant. Just the intention of this is that the variance is essentially contingent upon the sound baffling being installed. And I believe there was 3 aspects: sound baffling, new heat pump, and a new window in the adjoining building. Is that still accurate? And if we approve this here, is that variance essentially contingent upon those conditions being met?
Yes, that's correct. The 3 items that you mentioned are the subject of this approval, and those in place would satisfy the district's requirements for the variance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? The motion is live. It's on the floor. All in favor? Sorry, was there a tentative comment or?
Yeah, actually, I just want to clarify, if I heard correctly, you're saying that if those 3 items that Councillor Murdoch just mentioned are not met, then the recourse would be that the applicant would have to then remove that. No. So what would be the recourse for the neighbor if these things that were put in place did not reduce the sound level?
So what we would work on is a complaint for noise levels, and we'd attend the site and determine whether or not those noise levels were exceeding our bylaw requirements. And if so, then we take the necessary actions as we would with any other complaint respecting noise.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, are we ready for the question now? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. We go on to item 16. This was a notice of motion given previously by Councillor Kirby. So I'm going to ask Councillor Kirby to put it on the floor, and then as she is the mover, I'm going to ask that she speak to it.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think I'll just read the therefore be it resolved.
Yes, that's all. We don't need the whereas.
Therefore be it resolved that Council request district staff to assemble a citizen advisory group to review the current stipend remuneration in comparison to other comparable communities and to provide a recommendation to the incoming council for consideration. And be it further resolved that should any increase in remuneration to elected officials be deemed appropriate, that the increase not take effect until January 2019.
Okay. Moved and second. It's on the floor. I'm going to give you, because you moved it and you'd given notice, going to give you a first opportunity to speak to it.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I would say that as an outgoing councillor who has a day job and a family and lots of other responsibilities, I know that I would like to pave the way for others with a more diverse background than one might see coming up, because we've seen many women stepping down this term, and actually many incumbents stepping down due to the 4-year term. There's an opportunity, I think, to examine the remuneration, given that we're at the lowest in the entire region, and that's even smaller municipalities or local governments have a higher remuneration than we do. It really makes it challenging if you are forced to reduce the number of hours you work in your day job. You really can't make it up with the sum that we receive here in any great measure. Like with the cost of living has increased dramatically, and we haven't looked at this bylaw since I think 1989. It hasn't been amended, so we do get a cost of living increase of like less than $5. My impression is that we really are being paid very much exactly what I was paid the first year 7 years ago, and so it's this job is becoming a full-time job. It can consume you if you are working as hard as I think that we should work as councillors. If we're investing the time and energy into not only making sure you're reading all of your agendas and doing your background work, following up on email and phone calls that you receive from the community, I truly feel like I could have done this as more than a full-time job. And in many instances, I was unable to respond to all the emails we received because of technology and social media and just the access that is expected and the response and the time that is expected from the community. Expectations have risen dramatically in the last decade. I don't believe this is the same job it was in 1989. In fact, I don't even think this is the same job it was even when I first started, given that we didn't even have iPads when I first started. We didn't have electronic agendas. We didn't have the webcasting. We didn't have a truly, like our social media use was very limited. Times have changed. The job has changed. The expectations have changed. And I think that the remuneration should reflect the value of the time that we pour into this. I mean, I truly did this because I feel passionate about the issues that brought me here. Definitely. But I don't think that my time should be almost entirely volunteer. I think that if I work hard and contribute to the community and do my best job up here, that should be reflected, and I shouldn't have to take that on as an added challenge in my in my cost of living, in my how I balance my work and life and my family. And it definitely has played a role in my decision of whether or not to run. I can assure you that knowing that I have a full-time job that's very demanding, there was no way that I could carry on doing the same level of service that I've been giving to this community that I have over the last term. And some of you may know that I reduced my hours to part-time in order to accommodate my family and this job and my day job. So, which also came at a cost, right? You can't reduce your hours in one place and not in your day job and not feel that that somehow that's penalizing you. Like, I really do feel that did some detriment to my career in my day job. So I feel like this work deserves the respect that of at least the same wages that others are earning in the region. And so I don't feel like, and I'm also suggesting in this motion that we use a citizens advisory group. So, that is, that's definitely keeping it removed somewhat from council. I also think this is the time to do it because it's coming from me, outgoing counselor, who sees this work as valuable and respects the work you do and wants to see people stay and be able to do this. And I think it also encourages, if we were to have a greater diversity at this table, the likelihood, of having more people that are not just retired or fairly comfortable, we could have a greater, more diverse socioeconomic representation at this table. Maybe a student, maybe people that are younger that are facing larger mortgages or just a mortgage. I'm not sure that everybody has one. And that feels the challenges of that and feels the challenges of being a working class person. So I think there's a real variety needed always. That's the diversity at any table. It makes us stronger. And I think that having a fairer compensation level will allow for that.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, we're ready for the question then. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Murdoch.
Thank you, through Chair. I think I'm philosophically at odds with you on this one, but I think that's okay. That's how we get to be here. And I guess I look at this just from what problem we're trying to solve with this. And I if I look at the demographics of the people who are coming forward in this election, we have 30% of them that are between the ages of 19 and 29. They make up less than 9% of the overall population. So we're getting they're not underrepresented in the people running. Even under the age of 50, that's 25% of the population is under 50, and we're getting between 19 and 50, and we're getting half of the people running here under that age group. So I don't know that it's a disincentive, the current model. I've also, of the mind, having served on many boards, both some that are remunerated and some that are voluntary, that the closer they are to voluntary, the better the attitude towards the service, as opposed to seeing it as a job. And I think that, Oak Bay has been served certainly through the middle of the 60s, where there's no remuneration at all, and we've always sort of been a little bit underpaid at this table. And I think it served the community reasonably well, in the sense that it's actually driven that sense of service to that. I do hear your point, though, about people needing to have some reasonable level of compensation. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I will point out that a couple of things. I think the bylaw was actually changed in 1997. That was when we moved it to the Consumer Price Index. Maybe staff can correct me on that, but I think that's when the actual bylaw came in, not 1989, not material. But I think the other piece of this, where that we lag behind, we're within $1,200 as councillors of 9 of the municipalities in the region. That's almost all of them outside of Victoria and Saanich. We're actually higher than 2 of those 9. We're not completely out of whack where other places are. I think Esquimalt is. We had that last report come back from Esquimalt's piece that looked at a bunch of not terribly compatible jurisdictions and they give a number quite a bit higher. So I'm not sure I see the problem in the same way that you do on this needing this kind of service. I also think that traditionally on these things we've had these motions. I know that this was an earlier one was tried to come a little bit earlier, but so that there's some consideration by the public and some feedback as well available to that prior to it being considered, especially around an election year. So I'm not going to support the motion. I certainly appreciate the spirit with which it's being. I do appreciate the spirit with which it's being offered. I know you're looking at this for future councillors, and I do appreciate that. But I just philosophically disagree in terms of what that should look like for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Salcombe.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Kirby, for bringing this forward. And I'm afraid I won't be supporting your excellent resolution. I do understand where you're coming from, and you mentioned in the whereas clauses single parents, 2-parent families. And I must admit, when I was considering running for council, I was a stay-at-home father. Been unemployed at that moment for 2 years, and considering moving back into the working world. And it was a hard decision. I'm going like, well, what can I do? Can I swing this? Is this important? Is this not important? And to tell you the truth, for me, at least, coming from that place, I would be at half of these meetings anyway. and because of my approach to local government, I understand this was a volunteer position for much of Oak Bay's history, and while my wife does sometimes has the belief that it's still a volunteer position, I would probably still be at these meetings even if I was not paid. I would still be coming, and I would still put my name forward because it's that important to me. So I can't support this. Coming from the place of a stay-at-home dad, coming from a two-parent families, I was fortunate enough to get a full-time job. Coincidentally, at the same time as coming onto council, but that decision had already been made before I came on council. The coming on the council was already made before I actually got the position. So, thank you, but not right now. Thank you.
Councillor Neate, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Kirby, for bringing this forward. In my view, you've made a number of good points. My concern about the situation where we haven't had an adequate rise in the stipend for some time, and I don't have the sheet in front of me, but my recollection was that we were much below any other comparable jurisdiction because we hadn't had the rise for a couple of decades. I thought it was a couple of decades at least. It has to do with the issue of representation at this table. And if, for example, these positions were voluntary, there would be a number of people who just wouldn't be able to financially make this happen because they're committed to day jobs to pay for the expenses of raising a family. And in that case, it would then exclude a number of people within our community to be represented at this table. And I think this works best at the council table when we have good representation that reflects the diversity of our community. And if the pay isn't adequate, then individuals who, for example, have a full-time job, and not everybody here has a full-time job outside of this work, but many do, and they have to be able to support their families. And in those instances, they can't take a day off. This job takes at least a day a week. They wouldn't be able to take the day off and still be able to fulfill their financial obligations to their families. So I think it's time to re-examine this stipend that we have to make it more equitable to a wider range of members of our community to be able to be represented at this table. And so I'm going to vote in favor. And I have to say that because this is an outgoing council, and the decision, if this motion were to be successful, would be made by another council that would benefit from it. But I quite like the idea of the citizen committee because it puts it at arm's length and puts a decision and recommendation in the hands of the community to make the recommendation to the next council, and therefore mitigates the conflict of interest for a future council. So I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Thank you. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. I think back to when I first ran for council and when I first sat around this table and I had to sign a piece of paper that said I actually got paid for this position, and I was shocked because I actually didn't know that I was going to get paid for this position. I'm glad I do now, but it was a bit of a shock to me. But I honestly, even though I know the intent of this motion is a very good one, I truly believe that where we're sitting at right now is not a bad place. And so I'm not sure if now is the right time for us to be increasing the salary. And I understand that we haven't had an increase other than cost of living. And I remember one year, and Mayor Jansen, you might remember this as well, where we took a decrease because the cost of living went down, which was interesting. unfortunately, I don't think I can support this either, just because I think it's not the right time right now. But I do appreciate the intent that you brought it forward, and that you as an outgoing councillor brought this forward for us to discuss. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to support it. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to
Councillor
make one additional comment that I've overlooked mentioning it, that I did try to motivate and recruit women that were my age that are working and that have kids. And I have to say that was an impossible job. There are no one in my demographic that are running this time. And that is not because I didn't try. I worked really hard to convince several women to run. And yet, as we all know, I think, I'm generalizing here, and there's always an exception, but generally, women carry quite an emotional load in the family, and they carry a lot of the family load, if you know what I mean. So, if they have to take time from their day job, and that means they have to reduce the number of hours they can work there, and therefore reduce salary, and not having the compensation here makes the difference between those women representing their community and being able to learn what I've learned and being able to participate in this forum and be able to contribute and have their say and have their voice heard. I think this is really important. I think this is, it's a barrier, and we need to remove as many barriers as we can to that demographic. And I guarantee that the pay, if it were increased, might just be the one thing that allows them to take a 4-day-a-week job or reduce their hours to 4 days a week in order to work this job at least 1 day a week. And so I think it's worth it. I think for the additional, I think it was the difference between us and Esquimalt is less than $10,000. It's maybe $8,000 or less. And times 7, it's just not, it's enough, it's important enough to me to make sure that we have a representative democracy that I would hope you'd support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Zelko.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, first of all, I wish to take exception. The voters vote us in. They determine what is representative democracy. And whether it's male, female, or some other gender, I don't think is relevant to what the voters choose. So but I do also want to add that if we had a very large business tax base, or we had a much larger just basic tax base, I might feel more amenable to an approach such as this. But we are a very small district with a very small primary residential tax base. And it is what it is. So I think that's referred to, it just is. Some refer to that as the definition of justice. It just is. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
please,
just one last thing. I think the other thing as well is that what I would really like to do, if I am fortunate to still be on council, on the next council, is I would really like to push to going back to a 3-year term, because I honestly think that a 4-year term is a huge deterrent for people running as well. So that would be something that I would fight for.
Thank you, everyone speaking. I was going to say something, but Mr. Jones was waving his finger to say something. Go ahead.
Sorry, Your Worship, I hesitate to get involved in something.
I thought you might raise.
But that's never stopped me before. So I hear kind of the conversation that's going on, and I just as a suggestion, I think one of the things perhaps that would be helpful would be just to have the information. And I'm wondering if council might want to just direct staff to collect the information and provide it to the incoming council, if that would be helpful.
Okay, so let me just work that through procedurally, which would mean we would refer this motion to staff to bring forward information about comparative salaries.
Your Worship, my suggestion would be something along the lines, be it resolved that council requests, and I wouldn't necessarily include the whereases. Be it resolved, the council requests district staff to review the current stipend remuneration in comparison to other comparable communities and provide that information to the incoming council, period. Okay. Not with a recommendation to do anything.
Okay, so I think that can be a follow-up motion depending on what happens on this one, which I think is brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to vote in favor of this, and it does appear to be it'll be lost on a tie, and so perhaps that backup motion is something that will help the new incoming council. There hasn't really been a focus on the value of mayor and council in terms of remuneration since over 20 years. The world has changed in those 20 years. And this job has changed in those 20 years. How we're seen by our constituents has changed. And I mean, we didn't have Twitter and Facebook and all of that information coming to us and all of that connectivity to our community. I mean, we would have an official community plan meeting and we'd have a public meeting, we'd have a handful of people show up. This day and age, we have hundreds show up. So this job has clearly changed since 1997 when the policy was invoked to just not review it every year, but just add the cost of living. I think it is time to review it. I think it's only fair to our community for us to review it. Our community needs to know in terms of the amount of work that goes into this. This isn't your dad's kind of council for sure. This is a much more highly complex job that now also ties into so many issues at the CRD level and the library level and the GVLRA and all of that. And I think we owe it to the community to say, by the way, do you know what we really do? Do you know how much burden there is on persons sitting up here? And compound that with the constant flow of Twitter messages or Facebook messages, which I can tell you aren't always pleasant, right? So it's a different world. And we're still rolling on 1997 thinking. So I don't think there's any harm in asking our citizens to give us advice. That's what this is. And the presumption that they would raise our salaries and we're a small community and we can't afford it, I don't think that's a fair presumption to inject in this because we don't know what they're going to say. They may say you're making too much money, but at least let's have that refresh, and I think that's fair. All right, all in favor? Opposed? 3 opposed, Braithwaite, Zelka, and Murdoch. It's lost on a tie. Does anyone wish to make the motion as suggested by our Mr. Jones?
I'll second.
Seconded. Discussion. So this is really just bringing back information to the new council. Let them worry about it. Okay.
Can we just have a repeat of that motion?
I think so. Be it resolved, the council. Be it resolved that council requests district staff to review the current stipend remuneration in comparison to other comparable communities and provide that information to the incoming council.
Okay, it was moved and seconded. We're happy with that. Yes. Okay. Discussion. Councillor Murdoch.
Well, I guess I still have the same concerns about this as I have with the other. Both the first motion that came forward about a month or so ago where it was shown to us that comparable jurisdictions all got paid significantly more than us until we actually looked at local ones and realized that we're actually very, very close. The selection of those comparables I always find a little troubling because they seem to inevitably come back with the ones that are way more higher than we are. And I guess I'm this seems like a bit of an end run around the original motion that was put here in terms of if this is something that we want to do, having staff choose some comparables and then bring it back for that. I think this is a philosophical question in front of us. Do we feel that staff is underpaid, and is it causing harm, which I think was the legitimate concern raised by Councillor Kirby in her motion. I'm not sure that we're resolving that. And I guess I would also, I don't think we've changed that much in that time. Honestly, the last 20 years, the GVLRA existed, the library existed, all these things still exist. So we still sat on many of them. Twitter and Facebook are not the biggest issues facing us as an elected official. And I get, it was funny, I was trying to find some history of when we started our CPI, and Oak Bay News had a thing when the last time our salaries went down with CPI, and the quote there said that tying Oak Bay's policy to CPI is better than most councils, which look at various reports and make comparisons with other communities and debate amongst council, because it eliminates the conflict of council setting their own salary. And that was a quote from Mayor Jensen in 2014. Again, we're 4 years later. I'm not sure that things have changed so significantly in those 4 years that isn't still true. So I'm not sure I like this motion. I think that if the intent of the council as a whole is to consider raising it, then we should do that. But it's a philosophical question, and I don't think that measuring us comparatively to other jurisdictions is that particularly meaningful. So I'm not sure I'm going to support this motion. I'll hear what other people have to say.
Councillor Kirby, please.
I'm not sure. I just wanted to clarify that you mentioned that Councillor Murdoch mentions that the other comparable communities were not that much higher. And to me, at $8,000 a year is significantly higher. And it might not be very much to you, but I think to a working person, that's a significant amount of money. And so I think it does make quite a difference. And it impacts obviously how some communities are able to attract working women to their councils, and some are not. And Esquimalt has most of their council were at that working women. That there were 6 of 7, and their 7th was a guy who has a job. So they're able to attract somebody that's most people in a different demographic that we struggle to get. And so I think that $8,000 makes all the difference. And I might also say that this is important, that the information at least to be relayed to the next council. I don't think that they can do it with what they like, but just having the information would be valuable. And why would we want to hold it back from them? Why would we not want to share the information? I mean, I just don't see why we would not want them to have the information, and staff has offered to do that.
Okay, other speakers? Okay, ready for the question? All in favor? Against? Same people who were against last time. Thank you. That was 17, we're now on 18, which is a memorandum, which informs us of what's coming up. We've already dealt with 19. 20 is for adoption of procedural bylaw.
Move adoption.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you. For adoption this is the step code one, which is item number 21. And just before we have a mover and a seconder for this one, I'm just going to ask staff if they wouldn't mind addressing this radon issue that's been raised and by Mr. Edge and his association either here tonight and in his letter. Mr. Anderson, are you the one to take that? Or Ms. Jensen, okay?
Thank you, Your Worship. Radon has definitely been a topic of discussion through the process of the Energy Step Code. It's nothing new. It's been addressed by a number of organizations through the years. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, Health Canada have both put out guides addressing radon gases and opportunities for Canadian homeowners to address those gases. It was also discussed through this process, particularly between our staff and adjacent municipalities, as we tried to negotiate how the Energy Energy Step Code would move forward. It's also addressed by the BC Building Code. It has been in that code for a while. Amendments to the 2018 code also speak to radon. Specifically, it's stressing how radon is addressed geographically. So essentially in 2014, some mapping was put into the code that basically shows an area essentially east of the Coast Mountains as having higher levels of radon gas. There's some sections of the Lower Mainland that have shown radon gas as well, but for the most part, anything west of the Coast Mountains has very little in the amount of radon gas. And even for those areas that we're speaking to that have radon gas in them, such as the interior, those levels are still, I'm going to suggest significantly lower than what Health Canada would rate as being a concern. So moving forward, as far as the Energy Step Code is concerned, both the CMHC guide and related to the building code would suggest that the more energy efficient and properly sealed a building is, the more likely it is to keep those radon levels out of the home. So as far as Oak Bay is concerned, with taking a tiered approach, essentially step one is going to reiterate what's already in the BC Building Code today. That would be in place until January 1st, 2020, where we are proposing to move it up to step three, which is promoting even more energy efficiency within the homes.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions of staff on that issue? Go ahead, Councillor Murdoch, and then Councillor Zelka.
Just a quick question through you, Chair, to staff. My understanding is that this bylaw change effectively moves it. We're walking in step with the other jurisdictions in our region as well, so that the consistency for builders is the same throughout the region. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Zelka.
Thank you very much, Chair. Through you to staff, I'll start with a comment and then I'll get to the question. And I do also want to say thank you to Mr. Edge for bringing the concern forward around radon gas. For the two houses that I've had the pleasure of being able to build in my life so far, I definitely, following the CMHC guidelines, definitely made provisions for radon gas. With respect to the ventilation aspects in the basement, one was without what was a crawl space issue over a sandy soil, so there was definitely a radon issue that was a concern. But I do also note that with respect to houses that are much more airtight, that one of the recommendations that moving forward, and this is relating to the question I'll have for staff, is that I understand the more airtight a house is, the more important it is for the pressure within the house to be generally a little bit higher than the pressure outside, as a way of ensuring that the gases, the natural gases, the natural humidity, not only with the heat exchangers and the air exchangers in terms of the fresh air coming in, but just making sure that gases aren't sucked in from the outside. So my understanding from the research I've done is that for the more airtight the house, especially when we're getting into passive houses, which is even further more airtight than what's being proposed here, there is a suggestion in general from an architectural and engineering perspective to have a higher pressure inside and with respect to the pressure outside. What's staff's perspective on that, please?
I'm afraid I have to plead ignorance on the pressure levels. What I can tell you is that as far as levels within the home, the CMHC guide alone recommends activities such as reducing forces that draw radon into the home, installing a balanced ventilation system into the home. All of those then rely on their own direct venting, pulling oxygen in from the outside rather than creating additional radon gases into the home.
Thank you very much, Chair. Absolutely. There's many websites out there, including the BC Lung Association. Since radon is the second, what's the quote? Radon is the second highest, next to smoking, when it comes to lung disease. Radon is the second highest cause of lung disease next to smoking. And the suggestion across Canada, not just here in Oak Bay, is to buy a radon detector, step one. Step two, measure the concentrations over at least a 90-day period. And step three, take action to lower radon levels if necessary. So all of us, whether we have the step code or not, really need to get a radon detector. And I noticed Consumer Reports helpfully provides a wonderful list of what's available at Lowe's and Home Depot and those sorts of places and various other hardware stores. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure my 1929 very leaky house will never have a radon problem. However, so my question is, I heard you say, Ms. Jensen, that the step one is coming in in 2020. And my question would be, if the BC Building Code is going to look at relook at where the areas that have a higher incidence of radon, will that come in prior? Will they release that report prior to 2020 or after 2020?
So to clarify, staff are proposing, as per the bylaw that's been giving 3 readings, that step 1 of the building code would come in effect November 1st of this year. Step 3 would come in January 1st of 2020. The amendments, and are actually attached to the attachment in your agenda, the amendments to the 2018 building code would lay out where rough-in for radon is required in homes. They've now updated that so it's geographical. So if you look at that list, those areas that have been identified, including places such as Gonzales Hill and Mount Tomie, there's no requirement for that rough-in. So the jurisdiction has an opportunity to include that, but the BC Building Code is not requiring it for this area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. I don't think we have a motion on the floor yet. So
Move
we need
adoption.
a motion on the floor.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. And thanks, Mr. Edge, for bringing this to our attention. We have streets and traffic. This is the U-bicycle operations in Oak Bay. We have first, second, and third readings of that particular bylaw, 4714.
Move first reading.
Okay, we can now allow to do first, second, and third, aren't we, Mr. Jones?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Oh. First, second, and third?
Moves first, second, and third reading.
Thank you very much. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Murdoch.
Just thank you through you, Chair. This was brought up, I guess, both at Committee of the Whole and then last time this came to Council. That there was agreement from the applicants to provide some funding towards bike racks in the community as part of the, I guess, amenities provided. And I'm not sure where we as Council ensure that that is done or included in part of the negotiations. Is that here? Do we hold the adoption of this bylaw until that agreement is in place, or do we rely on an agreement to come to us for consideration? I'm just curious about where we sort of make sure that is actually taken part of as part of this support.
Through your worship, what we're presenting tonight is the amendments to the bylaw that allow us to do a 1-year trial where I can do the negotiation or the agreement for the trial with the operator. And then the intention will be to come back to the council with a year's worth of information about how it worked and whether there's a desire to do a more permanent solution. At that stage of the game, it would be staff's recommendation to seek council's direction on things like permanent infrastructure changes. It's not our recommendation to require permanent changes or community contributions for a 1-year trial.
If I may, when they were at the Committee of the Whole, this was raised with them at that meeting, and they seemed amenable to providing money towards some of that infrastructure for us. And if I look, as one who, most of us do ride our bike to the village here, there is a real deficit of parking of bicycles, and adding the U-bicycles to that mix, it's causing some, there's not a lot of places to put them. And given that we don't take any property taxes or anything else from these virtual businesses that use our services, they seemed amenable to doing it with this pilot, and I think it would be in our community's best interest to do that. So how do we give some leverage here as a council to sort of request that as part of this trial?
Mr. Jones?
Sorry, Your Worship, I'll jump in here. I've been involved with discussions with U-Bike and the University of Victoria and the District of Saanich. And I think we're all looking at kind of a bit of a trial period to see how this works. And I think all of us felt that it would be more appropriate once we see how things work out. Then we would have those dialogues around the permanent infrastructure. And we thought having that conversation requiring them to put in that permanent infrastructure in advance of them having a more permanent answer, it would be better to wait.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to be clear, I'm not talking about them putting in the infrastructure, just providing some funds as part of that pilot project, and that they seemed amenable to. Is that really so far outside the pale that they said it publicly in our meeting that they would be willing to do that? So it seems strange that we're not following up on that in terms of seeking some funding from them as part of this pilot project. Is there any way we can, as council, make that a requirement as part of this operational agreement?
Your Worship, we can ask that question.
I mean, I'll support the first, second, and third reading here, but I think that from my perspective, that operational piece is going to be a requirement.
Maybe when it comes back for adoption, we can have an answer to that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. Okay, further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Item number 23, which is the 4719 bylaw, fire prevention and life safety. We have our fire chief here who's patiently waited all this time. I notice they take the clock away now, so we're not always looking up and saying, how late is it getting anyway?
Move for second, third reading, bylaw 4719.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Now we have 420, which is a companion.
Excuse me, Chair. I wish to declare a conflict of interest on item 24 for bylaw 4720, as I am an employee of Emergency Management British Columbia,
Thank you.
also known as the Provincial Emergency Program.
All righty. Councillor Zelka's now out of the room. Can we have a motion?
Move for second, third reading, bylaw 4720.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Again, we have the chief here. If there's any questions for him. Seeing no questions, seeing no comments, all in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
Move adjournment.
Second.
Very well done. Are there no those whereas clauses to that motion?
Whereas I am tired of these chairs and the color of these walls.
I think we got her. So, moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Thank you.